Okay,
I
that's
do a lot
fine.
of stuff with them. I always
When are you
have
thinking?
I mean, when I do my little thing.
They try and do different things out.
Oh, okay.
So, but hey. I could
Well, there
bring
wouldn't
them
be a
one,
baby if
one.
you didn't have any parts.
Too many people don't go online.
We're
on the record.
It's not mine, but we're not gonna do it. Not everybody goes online. Success?
Okay, sorry for the delay, folks. Okay, we're back on, and we just came out of executive session. We had two candidates for the open council positions. We want to thank them both for coming. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to council. Do I have an appointment for the vacant council seat?
You have a
for
motion?
appointment?
We should make a motion first to vote.
Well, you gotta suspend the rules first in order to
Right, make it-
proceed. So that's, whichever the candidate is, we have to suspend the rules to proceed.
May I make a motion to suspend the rules to
Yes.
proceed?
Okay, Mr.
Second.
Conrad makes a motion. Mr. Conrad seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad,
Aye.
Do I have a motion for an appointment of a council member, please?
I make a motion.
For who?
Dr. Sherman.
I have a motion for Dr. Ritu Sharma. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Conrad seconds. Discussion?
I think both candidates were great. I appreciate both you guys for coming. That's all I have to say about that.
Very
Yeah.
hard choice. Very, 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 very hard choice.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. It was a tough choice. Both great candidates, both have prior experience. So appreciate you both
Absolutely.
stepping up.
Very difficult.
Anything else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Nay.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Hey, take some donuts.
You keep bringing the donuts?
I do. I'm so sorry.
Bring it, please.
You want to come over here and we'll.
So we're still live.
Somebody want to make sure they take a picture of this? Normally I do it.
Want to be.
You want me to do it or you want to do it? Okay, why don't you do it and I'll take the picture. I'm out of it altogether. I like it. Nice. So many instructions.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Want to have a seat?
Spot's still open over there.
I don't think anybody else has been sitting there, have they?
What's that?
That's been vacant, right? No one's been sitting there, right?
Yeah, this one's been vacant, and so is that.
It was Destiny.
They want to sit
It's
there.
not an issue with the elections.
We had retired this season, like retiring a number for basketball.
We're gonna hang it in the rack.
Okay, again, thank you and welcome, Doctor. So I'll have you back and, yeah, now we'll move it on to the public portion. So are there any public comments or questions at this time? Yes, please come up, state your name and address, please, and please turn the microphone on.
Thank
You
you.
can push that
Debbie
up if you
King?
want. There you go.
Okay, my name is Debbie King. I live at 43 East Shore Boulevard. I was wondering why we have to have a complaint form filled out before anything can be addressed by the police. I mean,
You want me to answer? You want to answer
We'll have
now?
Mr. O'Leary answer that, but was
Well,
that the only question?
that was it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The best way to document anything that comes before them is for it to start with the complaint. That way there's a request in writing that then is reviewed and then any action is taken. That way we've got the written record of it.
Couldn't we just skip that? I mean, the police are driving by, they see an abandoned vehicle there day after day after day. Why do they need to wait for someone in the community to write a complaint? Couldn't they just address it right then? That way, there's no, the way it stands now, if I write a complaint about my neighbor,
What you-
and God knows I could write.
Oh, you're her neighbor? Okay.
Yeah. If I
got
write
it
a, you understand.
I
I'm sure.
understand.
Yeah, you're sitting next to her all the time, you know. Anyhow, she could always ask for a public record request and see who complained. And that just sets up, neighbor against neighbor then. If we
Well,
can
what
just
I'll-
keep
what I-
that complaint
I guess the
form.
best thing I can tell you is that's the way that it's established right now. I know that the chief has been going through policies and procedures. And in fact, I think there was, they just printed the revisions to the book over the weekend. And, that's one of the things that we can take a look at is maybe there's a better, more confidential way to do that. So I appreciate your comment. And I think I'll pass that along. And Lieutenant, if you want to pass that along to her, you could do that. So.
If I may say so, the couple that I had gotten, they did ask me, please don't tell. I would never tell. I mean, because I've made those visits and they're very uncomfortable visits. And there is a reason why I thought it worked for when I had to go talk to people, because I know that the resident was serious enough. I gave him the complaint form. He filled it out, wrote, they addressed their name to it. I knew he was serious, and I never would ever repeat, I just have to tell people I'm here because there's an ordinance that needs to be followed, and here is it's a legal complaint. And it was a way of me paper. It's a record of how many times I had to go talk to them. And it begins the paper trail of how many times. So you're right, you're right. People do talk, and that's true, but it's just a way of making it official, like, yes, it really has happened on this date. Would you not agree, Mr. Leary?
I would agree.
If we had the complaint form and made it optional to sign your name to the complaint, would that make a difference? Make, optional,
Can we make it anonymous or the option? to be
anonymous or
anonymous?
optional? Yeah.
But I still think it needs to be
Hang on a
filled.
second. Lieutenant, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Could
good.
you identify yourself for the people that don't know who you are?
Yes, I'm Lieutenant Jeff Meeks, Timberlake Police Department. Anyone who makes a complaint or signs a form, that that's confidential. That's never revealed. That's for record and record only.
I,
Even on a records request, who makes the complaint that's
It's redacted.
confidential, that does not
Oh,
get exposed?
well, accidents happen then because I've made 2 complaints in my life here in the village and both times it was not redacted from the form when it was sent back to the person who asked for a public record request. Number 1. Number 2, I know for a fact that someone made a complaint about me. Excuse me. Made a complaint about me and the building inspector, is that his title? Actually told me who it was. I didn't even ask. He just got out of his car, walked over to me and said, "Hey Debbie, your neighbor so-and-so said this, wrote a complaint about this and this and this." And, oh, really? Well, come on back and see what she told you about. So, you know, and I know that's happened to other people too.
Okay, I'll look into that, but any public record request, if there's a complaint, it's not exposed.
Well,
thanks
that
for
makes
explaining that.
sense, but that's not reality in some places. That's all.
Well, I'm sorry, we can't control what happened in the past. but
Exactly.
From this point on, though, like I said, everything that we do, when we do get a public record request, everything does run through Mr. O'Leary, so he makes sure everything gets redacted properly, and also through the police department, you know, any record, obviously, he has to be redacted, so we'll make sure of that, but, again, we're looking at ways also, I mean, there are many ways, as you said, you know, neighbor against neighbor, then we have even some other residents going out there trying to do it, or even the council members trying to do it, and the problem is that no matter what, we're gonna get resistance, as you know, when someone has a complaint against them, there's really no nice way to do it, but that's where we're looking at options, maybe bring someone from the outside in that can basically do this.
Well, now we also have real penalties for this ordinance too. So when I get a complaint form, now I feel like I have some teeth. And someone says, "Well, what happens if I don't?" I'm like, well, now we had a third reading on some ordinances.
That just slows down the process.
I understand, but how else are we gonna get a paper trail going? How else are we gonna keep things?
The police, whatever police officer should notice that this car's been sitting there day after day and goes and speaks to them, could document it then.
Noted.
Yeah, if I may, I don't know, is this the right time to jump in and discuss this or later?
Well, there's no more. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a small village, right? And word travels fast around here, so I tend to agree with her that if you're putting your name on it, it's gonna get out. I know we can do everything we can. And I guess the question is the process, fill out the form, give it to the police, and they house and hold the form, the complaint form, and then if there's a written records request, it would go, the police would notify Mr. O'Leary, and Mr. O'Leary would give out the document.
No, basically what happens is make sure I get this on the record. When a public records request comes in, most of the time after it's prepared, either the chief will contact me by phone or email me to let me know that there's a request. Then after the request is prepared, she'll fax it to my office to review. And then after I review it, if there's any questions that I have, I discuss it with the chief. And then I give her permission to release it. And that's as it pertains to things that come through the police department. The mayor from time to time will handle records requests. Sometimes he contacts me. Sometimes there are very simple things that he doesn't have to contact me on.
Okay.
Is that a fair statement?
So there's a few avenues to get a complaint.
Depends on what the request is for.
And do all complaints go to the police department, or can they be
No.
given to council? There's different
There's complaint
avenues.
forms online and then I handle it from there.
The police deal with licensed vehicles. I don't know what else to call them, but vehicles, whether they
Everything-
be a boat, a trailer, an
Sure.
RV, a driving RV, if it has a plate on it, then,
Or should have.
or should have, that's when the police, do the policing on it.
Okay, so
Anything else?
for the example that she used of a abandoned vehicle, I mean, isn't that something that the police should see and should address without having a written complaint? Or is that the only avenue that the ordinance allows action to be taken, is if a written complaint is given by a citizen?
Well, let me address that because it happened, okay? And again, we don't know if the plate, if there's a license plate on it or not. If it's backed in where we can't see the license plate, the chief cannot really, or cannot go on the property, to look at it unless they have due cause. So if they get a complaint on it, that it's been sitting there a while, they can go to the door, ask for, do you have a valid registration? But to just go there, basically, they're not allowed, they need just cause. And again, this is why we need a complaint. It's like, okay, well, how do we know? I mean, the chief, it could be that every single time she goes by there, the car is there, but guess what? As soon as she leaves, it's gone. Maybe it is mobile. We don't know. Again, I know there's one of them that was weeds growing out of it, but then when we contacted that person, they had a hardship and they were struggling and they were trying to do their best they could. And what do we do in a case like that? Okay, we try to say, okay, that's fine. But then all of a sudden, again, we're trying to work with people too. So, there's both sides. And again, I know a lot of them are unsightly, but then again, we got to look at the other side. Why is that car still there? What's going on in that family? What's going on with those, the resident there? And again, a lot of times there is a hardship involved. Sometimes they have it there because they're lazy, who knows? But either way, we're taking it case by case. But I know one thing, I mean, trying to get people to adhere to ordinance is very, very difficult, as you know. Unless, that's why someone, we had to put a penalty, because unless there's a penalty, they won't do it. But, we're hoping that basically people will just start to comply anyway. And again, what we like to do is try to find a different way of doing it, because the way we've been doing it, even when us as council members go there, we're getting basically a lot of feedback, or not feedback, but pushback
Pushback.
from the residents.
Yell back.
And and honestly, we're all elected officials, and again, regular big cities have a person that a go-to guy out there. We don't have that. And again, that's one thing. And that's why I think we need to look at in our budget to find someone, because, we do need to address it. We have to address this, but it should be someone from the outside that we bring in to do these, to send these letters and all over the way out. Now, and again, I believe that we need a maintenance inspector to go out, look at it, give these people the warnings. If they don't comply within the 10 days or
10 days.
whatever we give them, then she'll turn it over to the police department. They'll write a citation. It's over. Now we have a paper trail. It's documented, and there's just cause to go there and basically cite them. So this is kind of what we're trying to put together right now. Because again, we don't want to just do it haphazardly either. We want, because everything that's been done in the past hasn't worked. We know that. Because we're still at the same place. I mean, I read some of the Timberlake Times from 1960s. They were talking about the same issues that we're talking about today. The parking, the trucks, the RVs, unbelievable. So it's like, so we need to take a breath, step back, and we need to fix it and do it correctly. A lot of our ordinances need to be fixed. We're working on that too. We have a long way to go. There's so many more things in there we need to fix. And that's why we're gonna have to work together to try to do that too. But it's gonna take time, but I think if we work together, it'll work out. But again, we have to look at another way of doing it, not just the way we've been doing it. And either way, it's got to get done. So,
And with every complaint, they do have a 10-day period to make it right before it goes to either the police going out to them then, or one of us council people knocking on the door again and saying, your 10 days is up, you haven't complied.
Right.
So there is a 10-day, period for that.
Part of the process.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that to our
Thank you.
attention. I
Thank
think
you,
that.
Debbie.
Well, I do hope you talk about more.
we are, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
will. Thanks for answering my questions, guys.
Okay, there's no other residents I see. So, okay, moving on. Reading and disposition of the minutes. We have the regular council meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022. Any questions, comments, corrections on those meeting minutes?
On that, on those minutes, was it, I was brought attention. Do you remember when the resident came about the tree on Key Waden? Was that our meeting?
That was December.
That was December, okay. But she was saying her comments were not in that. That would have been December then's meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, she just brought this to my attention now, so, okay, all right, then I'm
Well, we
fine.
had a small issue with the minutes of the meeting in December, which was brought
That's-
up, but we have the video, the YouTube, whatever.
I'm glad you
to
said,
fall back
that's
on.
what I answered, that person. Great, thank you. Okay, so then I'm fine with the minutes for 118.
Any other questions?
I
Do I
just-
have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Conrad makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Thompson seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Good. Do I have a work session of February 9th, 2022?
Dr. Sherman.
Questions or comments?
It was a roll call.
Yeah, he missed
yeah.
Dr. Sharma.
Okay, any questions on that work session meeting minutes? I think I have a motion to approve the work session meeting minutes of February 9th, 2022, please.
I make a motion.
Mrs. Mara makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rutherford seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sherman,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to legislation. Resolution 2021-52. This is third reading. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter an agreement with the body camera company of the Village of Timberlake Police Department and declare an emergency. I believe we're not ready to pass
Yeah,
this
make a
one.
Move the
so-
table.
do I- So Mr. Rutger makes a motion to the table.
I second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sherman,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next is Resolution 2022-07, first reading. A resolution declaring surplus property and directing the fiscal officer and authorizing all actions necessary to affect the sale and or credit value of the same and declaring an emergency. Mr. Rasmus, you want to go suspend the rules on this, or you let it go
No,
through three
we're
readings?
not- Yeah.
We're
we-
accumulating a list, I take it?
Right, we still have to create a list of items. So
Okay.
that'll take probably several months.
Perfect, okay. Okay. Thank you. Next, resolution 2022-08. Resolution amending the permanent appropriation funds for the Village of Timberlake, Ohio, for year 2022 and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
Oh, I make a motion.
Mrs. Mara makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Hardwick seconds.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Thank you. And do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-08, please?
Make a motion.
Mr. Conrad makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Discussion?
Yeah, this is just a procedural that we're
Right.
doing. It's here in our approval package here. Effective the 15th day of February amended. One-page document attached there too.
Right, this is to increase the salary for the legal counsel from 18,000 to 24,000. As well as increase the associated PERS line item from 25, from 2,520 to 3,360, and then the associated Medicare line item 261 to 348.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, next is resolution 2022-09, resolution to acknowledge the donation of an American flag by Holly Goddard and declare an emergency. I have a motion to suspend the rules, please.
I motion.
Mr. Thompson makes a motion.
I second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger, Mr.
Thank
Conrad.
you.
Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-09, please?
Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Right after this. The
Well, no,
second.
You have to
For the-
vote whether you can talk.
Oh, we're going into.
Let's make a
discussion.
motion, then
Yep,
I'll
yep, yep.
open
Go
up
ahead.
the discussion. So do I have a
We're gonna
motion,
suspend
please?
the rules.
I motion for discussion.
Mr. Thompson makes a motion. Do I have a
Second.
Okay, Mr. Conrad seconds. Now, discussion.
Just a point of order, I guess. Is there two flags or was it bought together by two residents?
I haven't figured that out yet.
And that's
Maybe-
why it's split out to 32-30.
I haven't figured that out yet.
There's one flag and two people that donated.
Correct.
So is the donation as it's written here, split in two?
Makes no sense at all why they did that. It's one family, but
Yeah.
you know, they do what they gotta do.
Our last administration.
Can we
did-
combine them?
Oh, this is old.
It should have been, no, it was last month.
Oh,
It
Yeah,
should have been
'cause-
combined, I would think, but it passed it anyway. It makes no sense, just wasted paperwork. Why two, you know, it could have been combined.
I get, having prepared the legislation, I thought there were two separate donations. That's why I wrote it. as two.
Okay, I donate the red part and she donated the blue and the white.
Well, no,
I-
it's-
I-
Oh, I was confused about
Yeah,
that.
there's
The
only one
names don't
spot.
match, so.
We can use a new one for in here if you want.
Go get another one. We already got
Approve the
one.
one and ignore the other one.
Yeah, I don't know why, it was. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the cost of the flag?
$32.
Okay.
and-
66.
Okay, so we're,
32,
and,
30.
and the point of this is because we're receiving a donation, we have to.
Right, you have to do it.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So any other discussion on it? Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger. Aye. Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, the next one, do we want to just,
If it was just one flag donation, then you could just go with the one resolution. We could skip 10, so.
okay. Next is ordinance 2022-02. An ordinance authorizing and approving the appointment of Kevin Thompson as street commissioner of the village of Timberlake pursuant to the provisions of section 735.31 of the Ohio Revised Code, setting compensation of $1 per year and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
So move.
Mr. Roediger makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Abstain.
Dr. Sharma, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-02, appointing Kevin Thompson as street commissioner, please?
Motion?
Was that Nancy?
Oh,
Mrs. Mara makes a motion.
I second.
Dr. Sharma seconds. Discussion.
Do you have plans for that $1 pay raise?
Wouldn't you like to know? I'll do my best. I don't know how many people have held this position in Timberlake, but I will, I'm gonna be looking into doing crack fills and minor street repairs, things like that, you know, as much money as Stan will allow me to have, and we'll see. So.
Okay. well,
$1.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Abstain.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2022-03, an ordinance amending wages and salaries for employees of the village of Timberlake, Ohio, and declare an emergency. Do I have motions to suspend the rules, please?
So move.
Mr. Roediger suspends the rule, makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Thompson seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger. Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-03, amending the wages and salaries, please.
I motion.
Mr. Thompson makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I make a second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Discussion.
Yeah, I just want to bring up a point that I asked prior to the meeting, just to put it on record, that this is, besides the solicitor we changed earlier, but the chief of police's salary is not changing. It's just changing the legislation to pay it as a
Reflect the
salary
actual-
annually instead of hourly.
Correct.
I know as a citizen, I would have had that question when I read it in the minutes, so I just wanted to answer that for the public.
And then one more thing is we have two classes of pay scale for the service department. Class 1 and 2. We up the one to $15 an hour. But we're gonna raise number 2 at $13 an hour. That'll be the entry rate.
I'm gonna say the ones that just.
Entering,
get
yeah,
heightened.
correct.
Right.
But that'll be under a
Separate.
separate ordinance. Since it's not in this one.
Correct.
So,
Okay, so any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Roediger. Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. Want to bring up about the Timberlake Times. Jackie Morbone, she basically was retired from doing the Times, and now we have a new editor, Keith Witterheim. He'll be taking over. But now we just found out our printer, Gary Warner, is also retiring. So we're looking for a new printer. So if there's anyone out there interested in assuming that role, it's just one day or one Saturday, probably about 4 hours on a Saturday, once a month, the first Saturday of the month. Just
They
come
use
in
the
here.
village, yeah.
They use the village copier and make those copies, and pretty much it'll staple it off for them. But it's just a matter of just sitting there watching the copy machine, making sure it doesn't get jammed. But, we have 2 other people delivering it. Debbie King right here, thank you, and Alan Peterson. They
Seen
do the-
Al. I've seen Al.
Yeah, they go out there doing the delivery, and we thank them. So, and again, they do a great job on that. And if there's anyone that wants to ever help out, like I said, we're always looking for more volunteers, but we will be needing an editor or a printer, soon. So if anyone knows anyone or anyone would like to step up, that'd be great.
Is that strictly a volunteer position?
Yeah, it's just a strictly volunteer, yeah. The Timberlake Times.
You thought you got paid. a little bit.
It pays a little less than what you
Looking
get paid, so.
looking for a little extra work.
You're the second
You're picking up
highest.
on the volume.
Yeah, need a few part-time $1 a year jobs to.
Okay, and then I think at this time, should I do the committee summons?
If that's what you're redoing the committee assignment?
Well, now that we have Dr. Sharma with us, so.
Okay.
Okay, so. On finance, public record retention and ordinances, it'll be Stanley Roeder Jr., the president pro tem. He'll be the committee chair, and then on the committee will be Kevin Thompson and Cindy Hardwick. For safety and service, be Nancy Mara, she'll be the chair. And then Stanley Roediger and Dr. Sharma will be on the committees. For trees, Kevin Thompson will be the chair. Nancy Mara and Ryan Conrad will be on the committee. For the Village Hall and Parks, Cindy Hardwick will be the chair. Stanley Roediger and Nancy Mara will be on the committees. In sewers, Ryan Conrad as the chair. Kevin Thompson and Dr. Sharma will be on the committee. And then for grants, Dr. Ritu Sharma will be the chair, and Cindy Hardwick and Ryan Conrad will be on the committees. So those will be the new assignments. Pass that down to our fiscal officer, please. Any questions on that? Anyone? I want to thank you all for helping out in those positions. So another order of business I like to do is that we may run into a situation where the mayor might want to go on vacation and the
No.
president pro temp might want to go on vacation. So we may want to, I think we need a vice president pro temp maybe. Council?
Well, you need to appoint somebody in that circumstance to take on that responsibility in the event that both of you are, I don't think you call him a vice president pro temp. Mr. Roskis, I'm not sure that I've heard that term before.
No.
But certainly, council would need to vote on who would assume the responsibilities as mayor if both of you were to be out of town. So
$1 a year too.
racking them up. It's like Monopoly.
I mean, is that succession planning too? Like, say something, God forbid, happens to the mayor, is Stan the new mayor as president pro temp? So then there'd be the third in line to the throne, per
If the
se,
mayor goes out of town, he's
acting.
acting.
So we do something now.
Yeah, if you want to discuss it and make a motion to appoint someone in that circumstance to act as mayor in the event that both the mayor and the president pro tem are not available out of town, then you guys can take that action.
Problem is, I'm usually out of town with the mayor.
I was just going to say that.
So you're out.
That would leave you
It's
out.
usually how it goes.
Dr. Sharma, I know you've been pro tem before.
No problem. Thank you.
Would you like to do this?
That won't probably happen. but-
Oh, no.
Oh,
You.
you never know.
But we're talking, a week.
Right, yeah.
Sounds like it's coming up because it may happen in the near-ish future.
I think that's why it was brought up.
I'm this close. That's all I gotta say. I'm that close. One more breakdown of that truck,
You're out of here.
I'm really gone.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma.
All right, well,
Got a voter in.
Yeah.
so do I have a
Is that a
motion to
Cindy?
Yes.
So move.
approve? Okay, Mr. Rodiger makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Mara makes a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
I,
Dr. Sharma. Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rodiger.
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
The
Okay,
minutes will reflect that in the event that, unlikely event that both are gone, that Dr. Sharma will step in as the acting mayor for that period of time.
okay, thank you. That's all I have. Solicitors report. Hillary?
The only thing I have, Mayor, is I was afraid this is gonna be the third flag, but after our last meeting, I contacted David Joyce's office, and his office was kind enough to send to us an American flag that was flown over the US Capitol, United States Capitol. And so I'm going to give this to you. You can be used inside or outside. It's up to whatever you want to do as far as the village is concerned. But it was flown over the US Capitol. So
Oh, that's
wow.
Okay, very good.
Right.
I know.
Well, they only put them up.
They fly them one day.
Yeah, they only fly
That's
them.
it.
Yeah, it's,
No stains.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not teaching that.
Thank you for that.
so that is my report.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, moving on to the council members. Cynthia Hardwick.
Okay. As far as the village hall goes, there's no revisions to the contract, so to speak, just move some things around so it looks a little bit easier to read. We've gone ahead and purchased some towels to give the rental people that they can use them for cleanup or whatever they're, I don't know.
Like
if
dish
they're-
towels, like dish towels and like that?
Like dish towels, yeah, they're called bar towels. They're pretty thick and they're pretty good. I've also purchased some oven mitts so that if people are using the stove or the oven, again, I wouldn't think if I'm having a party to bring my own, so those will be available. I've purchased a new cart 3-level cart. It'll hold up to 400 pounds. I don't know what could be 400 pounds, but one big meatball or something, but but I think that is just such a necessity to help people bring things in instead of making 100 different back and forth and back and forth. And I know that this year is the 75th year of Timberlake. And I know there is a plaque out on our, where our flag is now. I think that was the 50th, and we're going to probably want a 75th. And I think I'm turning to the residents for donations toward it, or if somebody wants to step up and purchase the whole thing. But I think that would be a nice gesture to do that.
Specific date?
Oh, no.
Probably have a.
John, would you know?
You mean
Have
for?
to look it up.
you
Somebody
mean for
brought
the
outside.
75th?
The 75th.
Uh-huh.
As well. There is.
Opened.
Wow.
Funny, I was gonna suggest putting a time capsule under it, have the kids do it or something.
There's already one there.
Okay.
I just wonder if you want to plan an event close to the actual date of the 75th anniversary.
Well, we have,
Only when it's warm.
yeah, the Village Club does a picnic every year. And there's gonna be, in fact, I have something to ask you about when I get to my portion.
Okay.
Yeah, like Family Fun Day.
Yeah, they're gonna do it up. That's what I'm getting the impression.
Okay.
I have questions for Larry.
And then I would love to thank our new fiscal officer for making all of our lives so easy now. And it's just a pleasure that you're here. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Your timeliness is appreciated.
The minutes were spectacular. They were easy to follow as a non-council person as well, so. Thank you for that.
Okay. Mr. Conrad, you're next.
So I got my first call as council person about a sewer issue. It was Jennifer Trek and John Carezzi at 90 East Shore, and the mayor actually fielded the same question. So by the time I called her back 5 minutes later, the mayor was already gracious enough to be over there and take a look at the problem for them. Turns out it appears to be a sewer leak in underneath the house. So the owner's responsibility, not a backup of Timberlake sewers, which is good in the sense that we don't have major repairs to do. It's unfortunate that the resident has that issue. They're new to the village. So the mayor graciously went, like I said, went over there, looked at it, gave them an answer. They were very happy with our response, not happy with the issue, obviously, but we both talked to her and she was very happy, had nothing but positive things to say about the mayor. And I think just to state for the record, I think the mayor has done a great job and put a lot of his own time and effort into the sewers. So we're, as we all know, the sewers are antiquated and not necessarily set up to handle what they have to handle. But he goes above and beyond consistently for the residents. And this is just another example of that. So I wanted to personally thank the mayor for hustling over there before I had a chance to get there. And I haven't followed up with them. I'm gonna give them a little bit of time and plan to follow up just to see if, as the mayor suggested, they do put in an insurance claim, see how that all goes. That's really all I have to report. I mean, there's nothing really happening with sewers at the moment. I did ask the mayor if once the weather breaks, if we could walk around and he could point out known problem areas and maybe start to make a list of top 5, top 3 that we can start to budget for and repair, because the money that we do have set aside is kind of a prudent reserve. It's going to be hard to touch that knowing that there may be an emergency that we have to take care of. So unless we plan it for the end of the year and use that money towards the end of the fiscal year, knowing we're going to re-up shortly, then it's going to be hard to make any proactive improvements as it sits now, but. that's
Okay,
all I
well,
got.
thank you very much. Appreciate that. We're gonna have our engineers here, Pete Formica, so he's gonna be addressing us with a couple of these sewer issues also, so a little bit, but thank you. Nancy Mara, please.
Well, you already, I was a little concerned about publisher, but you already took care of that. We need somebody to step up for that. Because I got a call about that, who's gonna do that, so you're doing that. Oh gosh, beyond service, what do we need, Mayor? We need to plow. We need things to, I don't, we have to look at things for next year. We need a new plow, we need people in service who want to plow. Am I not mistaken that one gentleman is not comfortable plowing, correct? The other gentleman has his own plow company now, so he's busy, correct? We do have a third person that stepped up to plow, who used to be on service with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson. Thank you very much. What do we do? Can we hire a third one to help us in service? Is that too early to talk about? To get someone else to help us in service? Is that too early?
Oh, yeah, we're good right now, but
You think so? Okay, all right, because we get the calls at 12 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's part of the job, but the mayor's been doing all the plowing, all the fixing. So our plow is on its last leg, and I'm sure it's been on its last leg for 5 years. But through tenacity, it keeps on getting fixed. So that's all I have to say. Oh, there was a tree issue, but Kevin took care of that because we had an arborist tell us we had a tree that was imminent danger, and he'll go into that as safety. He said, whoever had a safety better have cones here right now, but Kevin jumped on it, took care of the tree, so we're going to that report.
okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Ruttiger.
Finance Committee on March 9th. It has been set up to discuss numerous items on the budget and planning for truck expense and squad car expenses and things like that are on the agenda.
It's a work session. Actually.
No, it's a Finance Committee meeting.
What time are we doing it, Stan?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
There's an email sent out.
Yeah, I saw.
It's already posted on our website also.
Is it?
Hmm?
But they're all right.
The other thing is, finally, with the weather breaking and time has become available, the 2 units will be started installing tomorrow on the first floor.
Great.
Did you say you have an installation date?
For the first floor starting tomorrow,
That's these 2 units
these 2
here.
units on the first floor.
And then when will they do the upstairs? Do you know?
Who knows? That has to be debated, and I can't debate, but there's no one here to debate with.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay,
No, not really. Nothing that Cindy and I won't be going over there. Yeah, there are problems. The hood in the kitchen is not sized properly to exhaust the cooktop. It was probably a deal sometime that we smelled gas the other day. It was just the pilot's on. And when you do the calculations, your cooktop needs to be bigger, but we're not gonna do that. And we're not gonna replace the stove either. But there's little items like that. We're probably gonna relocate the thermostat because the refrigerator in there kicks out a lot of heat. And it affects the thermostat. So it's cold in the restrooms and everywhere else, but it's warm there because it's air going through. Little things like that we're going to have to take care of as we go through. And one thing, we could put a pair of bifold doors on the kitchen, but I don't think that costs more money than relocating the thermostat across the hall, out of the airflow. There's a hot water tank in the attic is blowing off water into the drain downstairs, which we have to check to find out why. I don't know why. It shouldn't be. It's just a hot water tank. But little things like that I've come across while doing, and in that room is also, as you know, is electrical panel. So we have to make sure that we don't have a hot water tank failure going because there's a pan underneath that collects water that drains down. So when they're up there, when that is scheduled, they'll do some more research and give you more answers on what may or may not be done. Right now it is very cold up in that attic. None of the pipes, the hot water or the cold water are insulated. Half of them are on the outside wall, which I don't understand why it hasn't been frozen except heat leakage from the unit when it's on. So there's no things like that that may have to be addressed. Old building, that's the way it was built, was probably volunteered, installed to begin with. So there's going to have to be some time and labor, which both cost money and some material to fix some of these issues. Maybe even a new duct run to the women's restroom, but we'll know a lot more when we get the time to go up into that attic and look at it. And there's a lot of junk up there too that needs to be thrown out. I don't know why it's bunched up around the heater and hot water tank, things like that. There's trash up there. So.
Stan, did you ask how much it was to move the thermostat when they
Not
came?
yet. I mean, we just figured that out last Friday afternoon.
Can you ask
Oh, no, I'll
them
have
tomorrow?
quotes for everything, the
Okay.
way it has to be done. That's the cheapest thing of everything.
Well, that's why I'm just
That-
curious,
but
what's our
remember,
ballpark here?
Since we're adding air conditioning, we have to run new wire anyway, because that's a 2-pair wire. With air conditioning, we need a 4. No, it's a single pair. Now we need a 2-pair.
Right.
We need 4 wire.
2 grounds.
I don't know. It's a little thing on the back of the thermostat. So we have to run new wire anyway. What's another 12 feet up, over and down. So that's the cheapest thing of everything. So I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thompson?
Yes, Saturday, February 5th, Nancy and I were down on Key Waden, addressing another issue. And a resident pointed out a damaged tree that was hanging over the street near a stop sign on the intersect of Key Waden and Owasse. By happenstance, we had an arborist, a certified arborist with us. So he accompanied over, to that area with us. And he did say this was an rather emergency to take care of. So the mayor did go out there and put a cone under the tree. I made council aware, and within a couple of days, by Monday, I was getting estimates. I was consulted with Nancy and the mayor. We decided something must be done is ASAP. So we got estimates. It was hard to get people to come out immediately, but we were able to get 2 estimates, one for $3,000, one for $1,500. We opted for the $1,500 option. They said they could be out there the very next day, and they did. And they came out and the work was completed. The tree was cut flush, so the hazard was. It was a huge tree with a large fork of the tree, and it was cracked through the whole fork, and that was hanging over a stop sign where people traverse every single day, and they have to pause there. So it could have been a serious issue, but
He was
so
pretty he was pretty dramatic on how fast it shook him down.
yeah. So I mean, his exact words were, if that were to fall and hit anyone, they would be very, very, very dead. That was his exact words. So we felt that we had to act, and we did. I also have the invoice. Fiscal officer has a copy, and so I don't know if it's out of order. I would like to make a motion to approve to pay this.
Are the purchase and approvals?
Yeah.
We'll just put it over there. Then.
Yeah, we just wait till the next.
Okay, and when is that?
That's,
Number 9.
Contractors ask for their money. So
that is just a few items below that, your
90 days.
section, so.
Okay. Great, thank you. And that's all on that issue. I do have some things to say during the public portion, but I'll wait and see if there's anything else.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roskis, financial report, please.
So at the beginning of January, we started with 241,000 in the general fund. There was approximately 100,000 spent in January. However, 60,000 of that was transfers for debt payments, which will come later this year in sanitary sewers and the paving improvements. So that was actually 60,000 of the $100,000. And the other big payments in the month in the general fund were Love Insurance, which for the year is over about $11,000 or a little bit more than that for the year. And then the other big expenses were payroll. So a couple payroll payments. Besides that, like Stan had mentioned, the generator was paid for, and HVAC equipment was paid for, and they're beginning that project this week. So that was generator and HVAC units came out of the American Recovery Plan funds. So right now we have, and that was a total of $25,964 we've spent so far. There's about 8,000 left in that fund, but we'll get another 33,939 later this year.
And
For
also
the
the
second
labor,
tranche of
the install of the equipment, you know. I mean, once it's done.
right. Besides that, that's really,
So it's 41,000 left in the American relief.
no,
fund.
currently there's,
8 and getting another 33.
currently there's about 8,000.
8,000.
We won't get the other 34 for a few months. So, just depends on the timing from the county. They receive the funds from the state, who received it from the federal government. So it's just, you know,
Rolled
so-
downhill slowly.
that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, police chief report, Lieutenant.
I'm sorry.
Another report, okay. And then zoning property maintenance, I believe Gary Gray was here earlier, and he said that there was just one permit issued, I believe, for the month, so that was it on that. Moving on, purchases and approvals. Motion to approve the January 2022 financial reports.
Make a motion.
Nancy Meyer makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Thompson seconds. Discussion on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rodiger,
Aye.
Mr. Conrad.
Aye.
Thank you. And then can I get that invoice?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve invoice for Gatorback tree service in the amount of $1,500 for that emergency tree removal?
I motion.
Mr. Thompson makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Mara seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara, Mr. Rodiger, Mr. Conrad.
Okay, thank you.
Are we supposed to do that with every PO that the fiscal officer is supposed to pay? Or can we just give it to him?
That's
No, that was
$1,500.
large purchases. That's for large purchases. No, otherwise, if we get a PO from him,
Yeah,
Prior.
and it's budgeted in, then we're good.
Prior.
Okay.
okay.
Because it was an emergency repair.
Gotcha.
Next, we open it up to the public comments and questions again. So is there any public comments and questions? Actually, yeah, you're right. I gotta bring you up first, so before that, so come on up and, or you can, either way, yeah. Stay there. All right, if anyone doesn't know, this is Pete Formica. He is our city and village engineer. He works for CT Consultants, so, and how many years have you been there? 50? 36, okay. Just a few.
Well, nice to meet those of you that I have not yet met. We're looking in discussion with the mayor frequently, you know, obviously we need to find money out there. We need to find it out. Dr. Sharma, we were working last year on that do. Got a couple of plans in place. First off, last year, was it last year? I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we applied for money for education fair through the Ohio Public Works Commission. That's a statewide funding agency that basically we put our applications into the county and we have to compete with the other cities in Lake County. And we were right on the line. We just almost got the fund. Actually, I thought we were still because we were on the line, but we did. So I'm talking to Maramara. We're going to reapply for that, maybe a little bit more, but there's a good chance because of the reapplications the second time around that we'll get funding for that. And it's usually from the state, we'll get it from the village. And it wasn't a large, I think we applied for
About 9,000.
10, yeah, it was 10,000.
Almost 10, yeah.
5,000 in the village, and we were gonna get some catch basin. We're still hoping to do that. We could do some catch basin and some sewer improvements.
No, I think we did 18,000. 9,000 was supposed to be from us and 9,000 was supposed to be the grant.
Yeah.
Matching
And I-
grant.
we
we got close, yeah.
Those applications are not due until, usually until, beginning of, the end of April. something like that.
And
Once that comes out, we'll get those.
the money to match is still sitting there though, right? From last year, because we had to move it to have it ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so that we won't have to move any funds to,
Well, yeah, if we get this funding that we asked for, it won't be until July of 2023.
Okay.
So that's the problem there. We put in the application now, we get like a preliminary grading system of it. If we make the grade or we make the line, then we do the official application in October, and then the money doesn't come through until we can't hire a contractor until July, first week of July 20 of that.
but the money match, they like to see that up front when the preliminary application, formal
The
application.
application is it's a scoring,
Yeah,
if we have plans put together, we get more points. So if we kind of have plans.
So if we have plans together, and maybe what we can do is put some plans together. It's not gonna be that expensive for a $1,000 project to do that. So.
Keith, what was the name of the grant again? What the organ-
OPWC, Ohio Public Works Commission, or it's state, now I don't know what to call it. It's been state issue
Okay.
1, state issue 2, OPWC. So we're hoping for that. Also, I've been attending a lot of webinars in the last month and a half, a month or so, with the Building a Better America bill that's out there. A lot of unknowns right now, but there over the next 5 years, the federal government is to give out $1.2 trillion to country. And so I'm trying to not figure out, but I'm learning about all of the different programs that are out there. And one of them is really kind of, it's very interesting. It's called a FAST, shoot, I have my notes here, the FAST program. Here it is, safety pumps. There's 2 different programs. One's called Safety First, which is funded for $6 billion over the next 5 years. This is something that we don't have to, or any city or village doesn't have to go to the state or go to the county to apply and then it get weeded out. This is the direct funding that goes right to the federal government. We say, okay, we've got, it's for safe streets. We have this need to put a sidewalk in, let's say along Lakeshore Boulevard, to make it safe. Let's, so let's apply for that. Now it's not out there yet. It's coming. They say it was coming. We don't even know, but they have funding for planning for this and funding for construction. So I'm really hopeful that we can apply for that to do well. And if we do get that, and if it's, maybe it's not going to happen in immediately, but once we know we have funding for something like this, then we can turn around into this, the other funding source pot of money, the OPWC, and say, hey, we have funding for this, we have funding for that, we parlay that money, and some, a village or a city can do that and have, how do I explain this? For OPWC, you get more points for putting up more money, the village share. Okay, well, if we get money from the federal government for this, we can go to OPWC, and the money that we get from the feds, they don't care if it's coming from the feds or from the village. It counts as the village share. So we could say, hey, this 50%, oh yeah, we have this, Peter and Paul are paying together and it works. And we've done some large projects, so I'm really hopeful that we can pull something like that off and not be so.
Tear the street up once too, right? If some of the catch basins are on Lakeshore, you're putting in sidewalks on Lakeshore, then you do it all at once, so you're not.
Oh,
Right.
you and your fucking sidewalks.
What was that?
Sorry. Anyhow, so those are the couple things we're working on. If there are sewer questions, I do have all the sewer maps and all the videos of the, of locations of sewers. Please give me a call, card afterwards. Same with the roads, a crack sealing program or something like that. I've got a list of contractors, work something up and get that out. I've done some patching in the past. I'm available if you need me. John has my number. I think I'm on his speed dial, so.
Memorized. Okay, well, thank you.
If I may, Pete, I have a letter from the Office of Budget and Management for the 23-24.
Senator Yuko,
That's it.
that's it. Give it to me. I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
They want to know.
I
what
know,
our-
I know. And there's not much on there that we would even attempt to qualify for.
No, last year, John had me put a 10-year plan. We had to submit our 10-year plan of, hey, we're gonna have to repave all the streets in a few years. So I put things like that on it, and sent that to NOACA, which is the Northern Ohio Area Coordinating Agency. They're the ones that kind of deal out the federal monies. So we've already put in for those things, but we want to.
Okay, well, this is another one. You can take a look, see
Awesome.
at it.
So if I could ask, so it sounds like the water sewer one, the OPWC, we're gonna reapply for this year already. And then I think it's part of the Build Back Better or the American Rescue Plan, wherever the big
Yeah.
infrastructure bill from the federal government. There's still not enough info on that to
Nothing's out there
even
yet, but
start
I've been just
applying for it.
Trying to stay in tune with it, finding out there's a bunch of different programs that they've set up for different types of things. And, some of them are more of a, local share, in city, in their share of things, or other ones we have to go through NOACA, which is fine because we've sent in a list of our projects to NOACA last year. They have.
Right.
So, but like this thing that Stan has, yes, we definitely want to put that in there and say, hey, we're gonna have to replace our roads in 10 years or fix our sewers, why did they ask for it? We need $4 million to put storm sewers in throughout the whole village.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So jury's still out on how well the federal funding
Oh, yes.
trickles down
I
to
know,
local
but if it's
municipalities.
there, we're gonna go for it.
I like that tack.
I sit in these meetings and I want to say so bad, excuse me, how are we gonna pay for that?
You throw it at the wall and see what sticks, right? That's how grant writing goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Yes.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for plowing our streets as well as you have been. We really do appreciate it. I see you out there all the time plowing the streets and I think, oh my God, doesn't he have any other things to do? And I know you do,
Well, thank you.
but, and I don't want you to think we haven't noticed because we have.
Well,
And I'm
thank
not the only one. We
you.
talk.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Yeah, thanks, Ms. King, for bringing that up because that was actually one of the acknowledgements I was going to make. A lot of people don't know that the mayor goes out at midnight, 3 a.m. sometimes to plow and salt our streets. And those are unpaid shifts that he's doing. That's, that's getting people going in the morning to work and saves the village money. So that should be appreciated, and it is by people who know. So,
Thank you.
and then also about a week ago, Miss Germano, Mary Beth, 36 Shawandase, who I believe is on zooming in on us. She called me with two concerns. One is the video sound issue. Sometimes when people are zooming in, they're having a hard time hearing everybody, especially the public comment part. So I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a sound production guy. So I don't know what to do about that. But if anyone has an idea of how to maybe make that better, that's that should be maybe looked at. And then she also asked me if I had ever been in the police station. And I said, no, I really ought to take a tour of it. And she said, it really needs a paint job. She said it would be embarrassing to her if another officer from another community or an official came to visit and was in our police station. She said she would be embarrassed. So, a lot of these people, I talked to them in the same demographic. She called me from enjoying Florida, by the way. A lot of people do leave town, they go to Florida, and they vote for these levies because they want a well-funded police department. And apparently they also want it to be presentable. So I don't know whose department that would be to maybe do something, but a paint job for small areas and isn't astronomical, and we should take that into consideration. So
That'd be the police
Actually-
department budget.
would that be police, or would that be
Yeah,
village
it's-
hall, or would
No, it'd
that be
police department
safety?
budget.
Actually, I've given one of those where it has all the colors in it
Mhm.
to the chief. She's
Ah.
picked out her
Color chart.
color.
Okay,
So she's picked out her color. I also think we need to address the floor. And we'll work on that too. But yeah, we need to spiffy up that area.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And one thing I'd like to add is, speaking about our flagpole out there, we have that stone structure around it. It's getting pretty beat up. It's cracked. It needs to be fixed. So if there are any cement masons in the village that would like to donate some time, maybe we can get a group together and I can help mix the mud and we can, relay the brick in there and get it built up again. Maybe we do something for the 75th year. Maybe we get a plaque, incorporate that into it, and maybe rebuild and plus put a plaque in there or something. So something we'll talk about. We got a few months here this summer.
Speaking of Stan, thank you guys for the flag.
So when you sit across the street and look at this building, the comings and goings, and you see the flagpole, and it was stuck for some time and it gets beat up, and it was time for the village to get a new flag, and in turn, we also got new halyard and block for it, so.
Great.
It should, the village got that, and we had a guy here with a lift truck that couldn't figure out how to get to the top of that pole. And John got that done, and we found a flag.
Thank you.
Looks better.
It came just in time that donated, because like I said, what happened was we had to put the flag at half mast. So what happened was, actually it was at high mast, and then I got a notice. I went to check it because I wanted to check the size because it was all tattered and torn. And again, you can't leave a flag up that's tattered and torn. So I'm on my way to bring it down. It gets stuck halfway. So now I'm like, okay, now we're stuck halfway and there's no one that we had to honor. Well, just so happened that 4 days later, we did have to put it at half staff. But the problem is then after that day was up, we had to put it back up again. I couldn't get it up. So right at that time, I get a flag in the mail, or I get a donation from Mr. Rodiger here and Holly to give us a donation of the flag. So I'm like, okay, now the flag, now I can't even put it up. there. So, and then we called the company up with a lift. And like I said, luckily,
Mayor
we're,
will-
yeah.
I thought it was a
touch.
half mast for Betty White. That's what I asked when we were leaving. It's like, were we recognizing Betty White? I know she's likes Cleveland, but
But anyway,
thought it was
but
a
yeah,
worthy cause.
worked out well, but thank you. All right, any other public comments or questions?
I have a question
Yes.
taken off the agenda for today. But I do have a question of why, if we approve a position and allow the chief to put it in the paper and advertise for it, does she not have the authority with the mayor to just make the hire? When it was on the agenda, we didn't receive a resume, so, and are we best suited to be making those decisions? Or should it just be council approve the position and then let, I don't know if it's the mayor and the chief together do the interview and hire, or we would need to have that person come in front of council and interview if we're gonna approve a hire.
This is following the ordinance that's in place that the chief recommends to council to approve people for their positions, whether it's part-time or if they are being promoted. All of those come before council to be approved.
Okay.
So
That sounds like something that would not be standard in local municipalities. Would that be accurate? Do normal chiefs just have carte blanche? They can hire their own employees without,
it depends on whether they're chartered or not. So most of them don't, but that's the way it is here.
don't need council.
Don't need council,
Yeah,
as long as it's within the budget.
I think it's worth addressing or maybe looking at, like, yeah, I just don't know what value we're adding besides slowing down the process. And you know, at where we're at with the police department now, it's, you know, there's shifts that are uncovered and she has to cover it, or her salaried sergeant, I think he's salaried, I don't know, has to cover it. So just for clean administration of the police department, it makes sense if we approve the position that she has the authority, or her and the mayor together have the authority to make the hire. There's just an extra step that kind of slows down the process in my opinion.
I certainly agree with that.
I do too.
Seems inefficient.
Well, it
the
would
way
be
it is.
very helpful because again, if she does find, like, she did have these two candidates, okay? And the problem is that they weren't 100%. She didn't go through the whole process of screening them out yet. Well, it just so happened then we found out a day ago that one of the candidates, we need to do a little more diligence in checking it out. And it just so happened that, you know, again, we had to then take his name off the list.
Right.
So, you know, that's one of the things. And again, if we have to wait now, if she's like, for example, if there's another person tomorrow that qualifies, now we have to wait a whole month to bring them in.
Right.
And again, we don't want to go through the process of the drug test and the background check, which costs us money if
We're gonna
council's
cut.
not going to approve it. But then again, it's just a formality. So, you know,
Perhaps during a safety meeting, you can bring it up. It sounds like there's some support here.
Because I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, I think finance committee is going to discuss a lot also about the department.
Yeah, I think that
and
meeting
where it's
should
gonna go.
stand, and just a suggestion, maybe we just call it a safety and finance committee, because safety questions as well that I'd like to
They're
bring up.
separate committees and they should be called at separate times because they have to be advertised.
So can we call it
You
before
could do
or
them,
after?
you can,
Back to back.
you can do them back to back, but they're separate committees and they should be called.
I have no problem doing back to back.
Can we amend the
We just have to send it in.
It's not till
again.
March 9th, so.
advertisement? Okay.
yeah, we can.
'Cause I think the advertisement's already posted.
Right,
or-
and we can amend it if it hasn't been published, or we can add another
Yeah,
one.
we
to
can,
it.
we can add one.
Okay. I
That's,
didn't know if
that's,
it-
and I think that we need to do that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll do it.
Well, the ones at 6, make it at
6:30.
6, 7. It's gonna run one in. The intent is to start an hour later. If it starts 15 minutes before or after, you know, it's just gonna run one after another. Followed by, I like that word.
We'll
Followed
write it
by.
up, we'll write it up and then get it in the paper.
Okay.
Or concurrent. Followed by.
Anyone have anything else?
Well, if we get an officer that the chief wants to hire, can we pull together a council meeting?
We can call for a special council meeting for that.
So we wouldn't have to wait until the next meeting if we have stellar candidates waiting in the hallway.
We could, but we have to make sure everyone's available. and, you know,
Well,
again,
You're gonna have March 9th, so if there,
Yeah.
something happened, you've got March 9th, you
Yeah.
could potentially do one there.
right.
Can you do that at a
Well,
work session?
that's not a work session. These are just two committee meetings.
Committee meeting is
And,
separate.
you know, we're inviting, everyone is always invited.
Sure.
But I don't think you can do that at a committee meeting.
Can't vote, no.
No,
Cannot take
can't vote at a
action.
committee meeting, but what I was saying was that since you're already going to be here, if you need to call a special council meeting, you already know that everybody, at least for the most part, should be available that evening. You can schedule it at the end of both committee meetings if you wanted to, for that sole purpose of getting somebody on the books. Because I think the one after the next, what's the next? It's the 15th probably, because
Yep.
Week
March
later.
28 days.
Yeah.
So if the week matters, we could do it that night. So
Does it make sense to do a
my sleeping bag.
committee meeting versus a work session? And what's the distinction between the two?
Can't vote on either one unless it's a real,
You don't vote at a committee meeting.
But a work session, you may
No.
propose ordinances that come to council, or they both do that. I guess what's the difference between a work session and a committee meeting?
Work session, we all have to be here, no matter what.
Yeah, work session is for the entire council. Committee is for the committee members with the invitation to the balance of council.
Which is happening.
The only time that you can vote on any legislation is at a council meeting. That's either at a special council meeting or the regularly scheduled meeting. Any other meetings that are held, discussion can be made. The committees can make recommendations for legislation to be voted on at the next council meeting.
Perfect.
Okay?
Yep. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. It is 8:11. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion.
Mrs. Mara makes a motion.
I second it.
Dr. Sharma seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Thompson,
Aye.
Dr. Sharma,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Rudiger,
aye.
Mr. Connor.
Aye.
Okay. Adjourn. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
It's a little like Stan today.
Thank you, Dr.
You're the only
Sharma.
one talking.